I really wonder when Donald Trump is going to get tired of losing, because it has been so much losing. Donald Trump is losing his war on Iran. Donald Trump has really lost the trade war he started this whole idiotic term with. And now Donald Trump has lost the battle against the algae and the vandals who he claimed ruined his reflecting pool. Donald Trump was just humiliated by his own lawyers, his own DOJ, his own lies, and had to quit his favorite pastime. And that is coming up with bullshit excuses that the reflecting pool looks terrible. We are going to get into it all, but I want to start with the context of a very confident and self-assured Donald Trump promising us that the reflecting pool had nothing to do with him being an idiot. That's not why he fell apart. No, it was vandals. It had to be vandals before we get to how the crying baby had to quit.
Ready? Thugs. They just told me a little while ago 6 have been arrested and like 6 or 7 are under investigation. They have pictures and everything else. They went to the bottom, and it's not a paint job. It's very expensive. It's not rubber, but it's like rubber. And they went down with probably a box cutter or a very sharp razor of some kind or a knife. And they cut, and then they started ripping it up. You know why? Because they're sick people.
Well, I'm walking down the length of the reflecting pool right now to see if I can find exactly where this 300-foot slit is that Donald Trump claims is running down the middle of this pool. I have looked up and down this pool so far. I don't see any sign of any slit. I do see a lot of paint coming up, but no sign of a 300-foot long slit or lots of slits as he's been talking about. Again, shocker here. I'm sorry to report what he's saying is 100% pure.
All right, Donald, it was vandals. You said it. You said it again. You said they had the long knife. They got in there. They tore it up. You have cameras all over the place, but nope, somehow they snuck past. Might I also say that the CCTV around the reflecting pool just went like completely under-discussed. Donald Trump wants to create an entire state apparatus to monitor all of our movements, everything that we do, the messages that we send, the calls that we make, the searches on your computer. They want to know what's going on all the time, whether it be with Palantir or flock cameras. And they were just testing it out at the reflecting pool. But Donald Trump, with all those circumstances, he couldn't track down the vandals, but he talked about them a lot though, right? And remember that guy, the Olympian, who was just taking a bike ride that they held in detention for 8 hours plus? Remember that? All to sell us on this lie that Donald Trump's big project gone wrong was the fault of the radical left, the communists who wanted to destroy the pool. Well, as we knew all along, that was complete bullshit, as it always is with Donald Trump. And now his crusade against the so-called vandals of the reflecting pool, he's having to quit it. Scott McFarlane of Midas Touch reports Flash Justice Department seeks to dismiss Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool criminal case against former Olympian David Hearn. Trump administration acknowledges damage to the Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool in June 2026 was the result of flawed installation by the contractor. It had nothing to do with quote-unquote vandals.
And let's start with you. This is a big admission by the Justice Department.
A big admission on 2 fronts, Pam. One is that they are now saying that this pool liner, it was damaged because it was installed incorrectly. And the reason it was installed incorrectly was because the Trump administration was rushing for a pool liner to be placed on the bottom of the reflecting pool as they were awaiting the July 4th, 250th celebration on the National Mall. They wanted it to be done in time, and so it was rushed. The installation was bad, and there was damage throughout that liner that the Trump administration had on the bottom of the reflecting pool. The second admission that they're making, now that was already quite a big change in posture by the administration to admit that their installation was wrong. The second thing they're doing is they are dropping a criminal case, a felony charge against David Hearn, the former Olympic canoeist. He lives up in Maryland, very close to Washington, D.C., and he had visited the National Mall. There were witnesses the Justice Department brought into the grand jury who were park police, employees of the federal government, who had said that they witnessed Hearn tearing hearing at that reflecting pool. He had been charged with a felony because they said the damage was so significant it amounted to more than $1,000 that he caused. Now they're entirely reversing that and saying that after the reflecting pool was drained in recent days, the Justice Department went back to look at it. They've already indicted Hearn. They already have alleged that he was the person causing this. He was a vandal. But then they went back to look at exactly what was the bottom of that pool looked like after there was water drained from it after the July 4th celebration. And Piro's office determined it looked like there was damage throughout. They didn't realize how extensive it was, and the Department of Interior then backed them up with some more information saying the damage was the result of a botched installation and not vandalism, not Davy Hearn's fault.
Truly embarrassing shit for Donald Trump. Having to quit your crusade. Oh, it wasn't vandals? Oh, the Batman villain with the cigar and the toupee that you installed to do the installation was bad at his job because he had never done that type of job before, and you underpaid, and then you overpaid, and then you paid more, and then you paid more and more, and it still didn't work, and it was a rush job, and it looked like shit, and the algae won, and you arrested people for making jokes about the algae. Making jokes about the algae. The algae was like Charlie Kirk. Like, you're not allowed to criticize the algae. You're not allowed to criticize Charlie Kirk, or you get locked up. Equally ridiculous and forgot about in a very short period of time. The algae is Charlie Kirk. I think that is a perfect analysis. Donald Trump thought he could use its memory for lawfare, and it just did not seem to work out because everyone correctly identified him as a liar and a moron. Are we serious? Are we serious here? This is ridiculous. I think we should bring back the weaponization fund. I say bring back the slush fund. I'm on Team Todd Blanche. Obviously, this is a joke, but I say we bring back the slush fund, and for the 6 or so people that were arrested, anyone who was grabbed by a member of the National Guard, we should distribute that $2 billion to them equally. I like this. I think this is a great idea. I think this is smart. I am pro reflecting pool slush fund. Maybe we don't need to do $2 billion. How about we seize Donald Trump's assets and divvy them up? All the crypto money that Donald Trump has made, how about we divvy that up against those who have been persecuted for touching the algae? I think this is a great idea. I'm pitching this to the next Democratic president. I think it's wonderful. It's the most corrupt administration in history. It's not even close. It's not even close. It's not even remotely a competition. And yes, of course, Donald Trump's beautification, his magnification of Washington, D.C., his attempt to make the city reflect his image of shit, yeah, is a staple of that corruption. But again, we always have to come back to the crypto fund. And it's what I want to talk about. It's what Senator Van Hollen was talking about right here.
We know this is the most corrupt administration in American history. What I think not all Americans appreciate is that the crypto corruption is the lion's share of the corruption coming out of the Trump White House. As Senator Blumenthal said, President Trump has increased his net worth by $2.2 billion last year alone. $2.2 billion while Americans are struggling to make ends meet. And more than half of that, $1.4 billion of those profits come from crypto scams. Senator Blumenthal mentioned one of the major ones, which was this Trump meme coin. That individual we heard who got scammed was one of almost 1 million Americans who were taken advantage of by Donald Trump. In fact, about 1 million Americans lost $3.8 billion of their money to the Trump meme coin scam. And as Senator Blumenthal showed, the value of that meme coin kept going down and down. But the way President Trump makes his money is every trade. It can go up, it can go down, but he's like the house. He makes money whether people are winning or losing. And as we see, most people are losing while he's winning. Senator Blumenthal also mentioned that big party President Trump had at one of his local, estates. That was to pump the value because what it was a party for people who were the biggest investors in that time in his Trump meme coin. And a lot of people who bought it were foreign investors who simply wanted the opportunity to rub elbows with the President of the United States, literally selling the Oval Office and access to the President of the United States for his own personal profit.
Of course, in the next Democratic administration, we have to go after all these idiots at the DOJ who locked up our friends, our family, our neighbors to intimidate them, who investigated them, who tried to bully them. But we also have to go after the crypto fund. And I think we should we should create a crypto fund. I think this is a great idea. All the crypto crime that happened with Don Jr. and Barron and Eric and Ivanka and Jared and Trump and the whole family and all of them and Elon and whatever, we use that. That's our weaponization fund. Because there's been a lot of weaponization under Donald Trump, and these people need to pay. And that is exactly what Senator Jon Ossoff has to say.
And I don't know if you saw what happened last night. But the same man whose grievances stirred up that violent mob that sacked the Capitol still cannot let go of his shame and humiliation at having been dealt that defeat by voters here in Georgia and across the country. And so at a moment when his war spirals out of control and prices for American families climb higher and higher, instead of focusing on the nation's needs, as always, he nurses his grievances. As always, he forces the rest of us to help him process his shame. As always, he centers his own fear of the accountability that he will face when we win decisively this fall. That's what we saw last night. But what we also saw last night was a clear signal of this president's intent to unconstitutionally wield federal power to attack this election and to undermine voting rights. And he's done it before. There's one man who tried to commit election fraud in the state of Georgia in that 2020 election, and it was Donald Trump when he called up Georgia's Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger. Do you all remember the call? Yes. And he demanded that Brad, quote, find him the exact number of votes he needed to win in a state that he had lost. That was fraud. That was an attempt to throw out your votes, to seize the presidency. So we have to expect that once again, he will try to throw out our votes, that once again, he will attack elections and voting rights here in Georgia. But what a mistake he is making, coming to the cradle and the heart of the civil rights movement to attack voting rights. Our answer will be massive. Our answer will be decisive. We won't just restore checks and balances for the next 2 years. We will rebuke him so decisively that no president will dare try this kind of brazen corruption and abuse again for centuries.